Hello everyone, welcome back to part 2 of the series of glue. In this one we're going to be going over the Gorilla Glue and the rubber cement, and then we're going to go over the prop. I want to thank you so much for coming back and joining us for part 2. I didn't want to make an extremely long video. Some of my viewers that have watched so far have said that, the longer videos you sort of lose interest. So we split it up into 2 parts. So I hope you enjoy the second part, and we'll see you at the end. Hello everybody, welcome back. Now we're going to go over Gorilla Glue. Now, Gorilla Glue is I'm pretty sure that some of you have seen the commercials. It's got a gigantic gorilla out there wandering around construction sites, gluing bricks and things together. And it's a really good adhesive. It's a really good glue for all types of things. A couple of things about the Gorilla Glue, though, is what a lot of people don't know is it takes water to activate. So when you use it, once again, the foam and the strap material, and then the fabric and the strap material, you have to apply some moisture, water, to one of the elements that you're putting together, and then apply the glue. And then you have to, like I used on the school glue, like I said before, I set it between 2 pieces of wood and set my heavy piece of obsidian on top of it and allowed it to set. So this is the this is the Gorilla Glue on the fabric and the strap piece. And just like we did with the other, I'm going, wow. Ugh, man, good night. Yeah, that is very stiff. So, once again, this is one of those things, right, where it's probably not practical. Imagine if you use this on 2 separate pieces along a seam, or maybe you were using it on some straps, and it's not very it's not very conforming by any stretch of the imagination. It is very, very hard, very, very stiff. If this was an episode of The Office, I think someone would say that's what she said. So it's gonna go. So we're gonna work it a little bit, and now we're gonna there it goes. So yep. So that's Gorilla Glue. So once again, like we said earlier, the fabric and anything that's got some malleability to it, it works, it moves as you wear it or use it, depending upon the function of it. Sweat and everything else, you have one piece that moves and forms, and yet you have an adhesive that does not. It stays relatively stable. It's going to wind up breaking, cracking, and it's going to wind up losing its strength. So that's that. And now we have the Gorilla Glue and the strap. Now I haven't even worked it, and as you can see here, barely anything. But we're going to do it just to be fair. I don't want to pull too much and have him go, he gave Gorilla Glue a bad rap. This Costume Corpsman's a jerk. We don't want that. So we're going to work it a little bit and see what works. So all right. So now we're going to go to it, and look at there. Now, like I did with the other one, I used some sandpaper and I roughed up this foam a little bit before I used it, because I did want to give it its best opportunity. But as you can see here, it's starting to separate and move. So you really have to be very thoughtful when you're building your costumes and your cosplays, especially on your pressure points, especially on the pieces that are going to have stress on them when you're using adhesives, because this is right where the failures happen, is when you wind up having those stress. So that's the Gorilla Glue. I'm going to be honest with you, this is one of the least, next to the school glue, Gorilla Glue and school glue are my 2 least advised adhesives to use when it comes to building cosplays and costumes. Now I know some cosplayers out there. I've spoken to them. They swear by it. They swear by the Gorilla Glue. It's what they use. It's the only thing that they use. There's not a lot of them, but there's some of them, and maybe there's a technique I don't know about. Maybe there's some secret to it that I've just never been privy to. But I do not know what that secret is. And like I said, I've been fixing and repairing and dealing with these things for quite a few years now. And this is pretty much what I see. So this is the Gorilla Glue, folks. So all right. The next section is rubber cement, which in my opinion is probably the most commonly used adhesive in cosplaying and costuming, and probably one of the best. So we'll get to that one in a few moments. Stay tuned. All right, hello everyone, welcome back. So now we're down to the rubber cement or rubber glue stuff. Now this, when you watch a good bit of costuming and cosplaying videos, how-tos and whatnot, rubber cement seems to be what a lot of people go to on building their armor, the foam, Warble, and a few other things. So once again, you can see I've got a few extra pieces here because I wanted to show you why rubber cement is looked at. So I've got the foam on the strap, and then I have fabric on fabric, foam on foam, and then fabric on strap. And so once again, it's stiff. But the thing about rubber cement is when you use it, you're supposed to put, well, you clean, of course, rough up the area with the sandpaper like I showed you before, and then you apply a thin layer of it on the two separate pieces of material, and then you set it aside for a few moments and you allow it to partially dry and become tacky. And when you do, it winds up creating a bond which I'm literally it's coming apart, but it's not coming apart easy. so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of stretching here. I'll work it a little bit more. Any adhesive that you use will of course fail if you pull on it and work it a lot. I'm not saying it won't. I'm not saying there's an answer for everything. Oops, an answer for everything. So there we go. Okay, so that's the fabric and the strap. So as you see, it did come apart, but it took a lot more effort than the other one did. So, and even now when you push it back together, it's still got some adhesiveness to it. So this is foam on foam. This is what a lot of people, like I said, use, the costumers and cosplayers, when they build their foam pieces. The PCV, I think, is what it's called, or the PVC foam. That thicker material. I'm using this thinner material just for practical purposes. But you know, we're gonna work it. But like I said, you apply a thin amount to both pieces that you want to put together. You set it aside, and I can't even pull this apart. It's literally destroying itself. So, yeah, see, it broke before it separated. And the part that stayed on, I mean, the surface that's adheres to the other surface stayed on. So there's that. So now we're going to go over to the strap and foam material. And just like before, we're going to give it the workaround. We're going to give it a work go here. But rubber cement, it creates an incredible bond. I know there's probably technical terms. I'm pretty sure there's a chemist out there or a glue or adhesive expert that can speak more on this than I can. There we go. So it's literally ripping. So, yeah. So, once again, it creates bonds. All right, now we got the fabric on fabric. Now, this is also, it gets rigid, and we're going to pull on it, and as you can see, it pulls right apart. So, rubber cement, even though I like it and it works for a lot of things, it apparently works best on the foam. And it also seems to work good on where'd you go? Here we go. The straps. So, this is what I always recommend. I recommend the rubber cement when you want to create and build your cosplays because of the stressor points, and it's really, really good. Now, I want to say a couple of things. The first thing I want to say is if I would have taken this and used the rubber cement just like I did, and then taken super glue and put it around the outside and let it set, either using the quick set spray that I showed you earlier or just allow it to sit over time, including on this backside here, that would create a double bond. And that is actually a technique that I recommend for people when they want to put these type of straps on foam, metal, fabric, plastic, anytime that you wind up doing that. The rubber cement creates the total coverage bond, whereas the super glue will create the edge bond. And so you're doubling up on it. So if you're going to have something right where it's not going to be seen, let's say like, you're wearing it for a shield, bracer, or whatever, like before, the examples I gave previously, that would work. And I have used that technique, and I've had them stay, a very, very long time. If not until after the decommissioning of the cosplay. So that right there is the rubber cement. It gave me a bit of run for my money, and it will for you too. All right, so next up we're going to show a little bit of different adhesive on a prop. This right here, and we will be back in a moment. All right, welcome back everybody. This is going to be the last glue/adhesive example I'm going to give, and this is the prop to show what different glues work. So I have a little plastic cap from a some type of lubricant, but this is just a plastic cap, and it's adhered to this cheap foam pellet gun that I got from Goodwill. I put a piece of foam on here. This is with rubber cement, and then up here I put an old medicine over-the-counter bottle on with some super glue. So building props, a lot like building cosplays and costumes, you have to be mindful about a couple of different things. First off, let me stress, do not paint your parts before you put them together. Because when you do, you will actually wind up using your adhesive and glue on the paint itself. And that is not stable because that paint will work loose, it will come off, and it's just generally not good. So you always want to start with the bare material. So when you're putting pieces and parts together, always start. Even if you hand paint, I know it can be a pain in the rear end to get into tight places, little areas. I completely and totally understand that. But unfortunately, if you paint first and then glue second, it's going to fail. I can almost guarantee it. 95% of the time, it's going to fail. The only time that it won't fail is if what you're adhering to the two pieces have zero stress, weight, or force conditions on it. So if you're gluing a cloud to the back of a gun after it's painted, then you should be okay. The cloud is just going to be great. But anything that's got any weight, heft, you move it around, you shake it, you do all types of stuff with it, that paint is going to work itself loose. And then when the adhesive fails, what's going to happen is it's going to come off. You're going to look at the glue and you're going to see the paint stuck to the glue, which is something I see constantly and all the time. So what I have here is like I said, I have a pill bottle, and I used super glue to adhere it to the back of the gun, almost like you would put like a scope or maybe some type of fusion generator on the back of your weapon for whatever cosplay. Use your imagination here. I'm asking you to. And just work with me. So the reason why I did these different pieces and parts is to show why certain adhesives work, how to make them work better if it's what you're going to do. So this is what we're going to do in this part. So using just 2 fingers, I barely did anything. And as you can see, that's the super glue. It's literally this just came right off. And I glued it on a flat plastic. There's nothing on it. There's no of this label, as you see here. This was a flat plastic, and it came off. And for a couple of reasons. The first one being, this was another reason you probably can't see it because, like I said before, I'm using a very poor quality webcam, which is my fault. But this is smooth. I did not rough this up before I affixed it to this gun. It's smooth. And I did not use the sandpaper on it like I should have to rough it up. But even if I would have and then still applied the super glue, what would have happened would be, if this was, like I said, something load bearing, a little bit heavy, whatever, it would work its way loose and come off. Super glue has a tendency, I don't know what it is. There are some super glues that are great. There's probably 40 to 50 different major brands of quote unquote super glues out there. And some of them work really great. Some of them barely work at all. Most of the ones that I've used, though, I would not use for anything low bear. Now, let's say I wanted this piece. Let's say I wanted to glue this piece onto here, and it's part of the frame, and I'm never going to handle it. I'm never going to work it or play with it. It's going to be affixed permanently. This would be a great place to use super glue because you're going to have plenty of areas to apply the super glue all the way around. You don't have one fixed point right where all of the pressure is on it for super glue. So if you were putting this with these 3 large points of contact, super glue is going to be probably your best option for that. So now we're going to move over here to this little cap, and this is hot glue. I just used a couple of drops of hot glue in between it, and we're going to give it a work go here, and it feels pretty well on for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's got ridges. It's not smooth. And I am going to now give it, see that? Look what happened. You see absolutely no hot glue on there. It's all right there. And when you run your thumbnail over it, you can feel the grooves on it. So the hot glue worked because of the surface grooves of this particular point. If I would have used this on that, we would have had the exact same issue that we did with the super glue. So once again, roughing it up, putting it on, and putting it on there. Now, the other reason why it worked, this had no load bearing on it whatsoever, other than itself, which it's a very light piece. It just sat there. So, but if you would have moved, if it was heavy, it would have gone off, and it probably would have fallen off over time. So, light pieces and anything with a roughed up surface, super glue can be really good, but you don't want to use it for load bearing purposes. So, next up we have a piece of foam and rubber cement. Now, as we see here, I'm pulling that off. And it tore. Rubber cement held that on really well. It didn't hold it on as good as it could because, once again, if you look, I did not use the sandpaper to rough up that area before I applied that adhesive. If I would have done that and then applied this to it, it held on really good. Look, there's still a couple of pieces on there, but it would have held on a lot better. So, rubber cement is probably the best load-bearing material or load-bearing adhesive that you want to use on props. It creates a bond, and you can build. And once you put, if you use it properly, once you put those pieces together, it'll stay bonded in most cases. But that is the short glue adhesive tutorial for props. All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope some of it was very insightful for you and maybe even answered a few questions. Maybe I didn't touch on something, or maybe you have some questions, or maybe I raised a couple of points that you didn't know about and you want more detail on, or maybe I missed some things completely. If I did, please leave comments down in the comment section. Let me know, and I will answer them to the best of my ability. If I don't have an answer for it, I'll see if I can't figure it out, or I could just address things in a future video. So, once again, have a great time cosplaying. Thank you so much for joining me. I am the Costume Corpsman, and you have a great day.